Hello everyone and welcome to NFL Discussion. I'm your host and NFL enthusiast Dougie Doug. In today's episode I'm going to be discussing Sunday Week 12 of the 2023 NFL season. And on tap for this episode of NFL Discussion Sunday edition we have the Jaguars versus the Texans, the Saints versus the Falcons, and the Panthers versus the Titans. And with that, we're going to go ahead and get right into the action, starting with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who locked up the AFC South with a win over the Texans. Now, granted, this is a bit of a hyperbole. They didn't officially lock up the division, but the Texans were the only team standing in their way, and Jacksonville just beat them. I don't think the Colts are going to be, even though the Colts are holding on to that last playoff spot, I don't think they're going to be making a push for the division title, and the Titans season's pretty much over, so consider it unofficially the AFC South belongs to the Jaguars once again. Yes, they didn't officially win the division, but they did create some separation, beating the Texans in a nail-biter that came down to a missed field goal attempt of 58 yards. Jacksonville avenged a Week 3 blowout loss to Houston, but nearly squandered a 10-point second-half lead. The Jaguars will see the Texans again in big games. If these clubs don't cross paths in the playoffs, expect future matchups between these two to make its way into prime time slots in the near future. Jacksonville could claim back-to-back division titles with Doug Peterson as the head coach and Trevor Lawrence as the quarterback. Houston has already exceeded expectations with their quarterback, C.J. Stroud, who's well on his way to Offensive Rookie of the Year honor. Following the first lopsided game between these two teams, what we saw in this game was what this AFC South rivalry will probably look like going forward, with Stroud versus Lawrence, Peterson versus Ryan. So if that's what this was going to look like, then yeah, sign me up for all the Jaguars-Texans games, because yeah, the Jaguars got the division this year, but the Texans are certainly going to be challenging them for it. Speaking of which, the Houston Texans, well, they lost this game, and you can point to no ground game to support C.J. Stroud as a reason why. In the crucial moments of the game, Stroud has come through with some big-time completions to keep the Texans within the score or pull out victories. At some point this season, most football fans have been in awe of the rookie's poise and presence and precision late in the contest. On the flip side, the Texans need to help Stroud in crunch time. Although he almost engineered his third game-winning drive of the season, he had to do it without any help from the ground attack. In fact, Stroud led Houston with 47 rushing yards in the loss to the Jaguars. Coming into Week 12, the Texans ranked 23rd in rushing yards per contest. More times than not, Stroud would keep the Texans competitive, but that could open him up to an absurd amount of hits with a high drop-back rate, which is going to lead to some wear and tear. Stroud took 4 sacks on Sunday. Running backs Davian Pearson, Devin Singletary have to make more contributions for the Texans to continue their ascension in the AFC. So yeah, Devin Singletary had a couple solid starts in place at Davian Pierce, and then all of a sudden Pierce comes back and Singletary kind of falls off. Interesting how that one played out, but Singletary's got to get back to being productive again. Yeah, because there's only so much Stroud can do on his own. New Orleans Saints. So injuries continued to mount for an ineffective New Orleans offense. And in the loss to Atlanta, multiple key players were lost on one drive. On top of that, big play wide receiver Rashid Shaheed suffered a thigh injury and didn't return to the game. Keep in mind that New Orleans placed Michael Thomas on injured reserve earlier in the week. The Saints just came out of their bye week, and they may have to move forward without key offensive starters for a bit. With that said, injuries aren't the sole reason why the Saints only scored 15 points against the Falcons. Derek Carr threw a pick six, and Taysom Hill fumbled in the red zone. New Orleans has fielded an inconsistent offense that ranked 21st in third down and 23rd in red zone touchdowns scored before Sunday's game. Because of injuries on that side of the ball, the Saints will likely continue to struggle to put points on the board in crucial late season stretches if they're shorthanded across their offensive line and within the passing game group. So yeah, with this loss here, New Orleans, who had lead of the division going into this game, has now lost it to the Atlanta Falcons, who proved that despite turnovers, they can win with the ground game. And Falcons head coach Arthur Smith has to simplify the game plan to get the most out of his offense. This season, Desmond Ridder has struggled with turnovers, specifically in the red zone. And he went over the Saints. He threw 2 interceptions, including one within 10 yards of the goal line. And the Falcons plan to start Ridder over Taylor Heineke for the remainder of the season. They should put the training wheels on him, limiting him to short, high-percentage throws in the red zone. Once Atlanta advances the ball inside the 20-yard line, Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier should take over on the ground. Although Ridder gave the ball away twice, the Falcons dominated the Saints at the line of scrimmage with their run game, racking up 228 yards of 5.6 yards per carry. If Smith sticks with what works on the ground, the Falcons could hold on to first place in the NFC South. So, yeah, Falcons with the win now do indeed hold for first place in the NFC South, which means they would be able to host a playoff game if the season ended today. Which, let's be honest, this Falcons team, this Falcons team would have no business hosting a playoff game. I think they would end up hosting the Cowboys if they were if the season ended today, which that'd be a one and done situation right there. But I mean, yeah, the Falcons have no business hosting a playoff game. Neither do the Saints or the Buccaneers or anybody in the South for that matter. And speaking of the South, Carolina Panthers. Frank Wright is looking more one and done after this latest loss, which now is the Panthers sitting at 1-10. According to NFL Network's Mike Garafolo, the Panthers will evaluate Wright in the offseason. Although most teams evaluate the performance of the coaching staff and the overall team after a season, the Panthers have an abysmal 1-10 record, and number 1 overall pick Bryce Young hasn't made much improvement through the first 2/3 of the campaign. Reich has an offensive background as a play caller. Young struggles under senators reflect poorly on the Panthers head coach, who has handled play calling duties for most of the season. Unless the Panthers make moderate offensive strides in December and January, Reich might be looking for a new job this offseason, although I don't know why he would want to jump right back into coaching. If he is indeed one and done, he probably, far be it from me to tell him what to do, but it might be in his best interest to just take a year off. And Tennessee Titans. Sluggish offense due for a makeover. In October, the Titans transitioned from veteran quarterback Ryan Tannehill to rookie single-caller Wilson Levis to spark the offense, but they're still heavily reliant on Derrick Henry. And Sunday's win over the Panthers, Henry recorded 18 carries for 76 yards and 2 touchdowns. Levis threw for 185 yards. Despite a win to improve to 4-7, the Titans don't have much of a shot to make the playoffs with an offense that ranked 27th in scoring and total yards heading into Week 12. They still have to face the Dolphins, Texans twice, and Jaguars. Henry had a strong run between the 2018 and 2022 campaigns, but he needs a stronger supporting cast with the tread on his legs over the past couple of years. Tennessee must rebuild its offensive line to help clear lanes for Henry, add another wide receiver opposite DeAndre Hopkins, and make an aggressive move for a quarterback to compete with Levis for the starting job in 2024. So yes, the Titans have their work cut out for them in the offseason. They don't need to start over at coach and GM, nor do I think they need to start over at quarterback, but they should, again, consider bringing in somebody else to compete with Levis for the job. Don't just settle for a guy. And if you can find out, I don't know what the DeAndre Hopkins deal is. If it is a one-year deal, find a way to bring him back. If Derrick Henry's contract is up after the season, I think it is. Don't know for certain, but if it is, maybe just consider letting him go. Or at the very least, if you can bring him back, don't make him the focal point of your offense. Try to actually have a passing game that can complement your running game. And with that, that will conclude this episode of NFL Discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button down below.